In a new interview with the BBC, Prince Harry opened up about the legal security challenges that are preventing him from reconciling with his estranged dad, King Charles. Take a look.
Of course, some members of my family will never forgive me for writing a book. Of course, they will never forgive me for lots of things. But, you know, there is... I would love reconciliation with my family. You know, there's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. You know, he won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile.
So is making that on-camera plea gonna help chances? You think, don't think he's making it into a public spectacle? What are your thoughts?
I was conflicted over this because, so I think all of us agree you always want reconciliation. We had Jeremy Renner here last week, who basically, I mean, he had a near death. He actually says he died briefly in this snowmobile accident. And he said at the end, all that you remember is the people you loved. Not money, not titles, not crown jewels. So I think everyone roots for there to be reconciliation. Watching this, I kind of felt like it was a Hail Mary. Like he's probably made outreach, not heard back. I can't speak to why he hasn't heard back or whatever, but I think that he must have thought, if I go out there on the BBC, perhaps that's a way to signal to my father, you know, in this period that you have left, I do want to talk and reopen those lines of communication. And I root for it. I think that he acted in the interest of his family in the immediate, not thinking he was giving up the rest of his family for the rest of his life.
Yeah, you know, this issue came out of a legal case because in 2020, he was denied security protection. The type of security protection someone born into the royal family requires, because we know what that kind of thing is. There's a lot of exposure, not only for him, but for the Duchess, Meghan, his wife, and his 2 children. And he wants to go and show them his home country. And so that was stripped away from him because he decided that he didn't want the official duties. And a point that he made during that interview, which I thought was striking, is that there are people that serve their country, but then leave public service, but always have that protection for the rest of their lives because they're different. This is a man who was born into a family, born into that duty, spent tours in Afghanistan and served his country for 35 years. I think that does warrant the security. That being said, another thing that he said was, while he wants reconciliation, he learned from Canada that there cannot be reconciliation without truth. It's truth and reconciliation. So yes, he wrote the book. Yes, he told his side of the story. We haven't heard from the other side, but I don't think he should be punished for telling his truth, because I do really believe there is no reconciliation without that.
Okay, so this struck me pretty hard. You all, 3 of you have met my father. You know how incredibly close I have been with him.
Cute.
My entire life. It's been, you know, he's my touchstone. I've had him on a pedestal my entire life. And I think there's a lot of families. I'm going through this. I think there's a lot of families that might not be princes, may not be kings, that are going through very painful family estrangement, where there's these 2 sides that are at an impasse, and it is very, very hard, because sometimes there's so many layers of things that have happened, of history, of lies, of pain, of hurt to get over. My father's 85 years old. And so when you have that tick-tock in your head, right, telling you, reminding you, his father has cancer, mine is 85 years old. We can all go at any moment. But when you're talking about an 85-year-old or somebody with serious cancer, you know that's even more present in your mind. It is very damn hard. And I think it takes a lot of processing and a lot of humility. It also takes both sides. I don't think it's something that can be done unilaterally. So as somebody that's going through it and hopes to be able to work it out, I really hope that they get the chance to reconcile, because my biggest fear is not reconciling with my father and then having regrets my entire life. And so I'm sure that's something that he's wrestling with as well, and so many in America. But girl, it's gonna take some liquor and some intercession from Pope Francis now that he's up there.
Well, reconciliation takes two people, but forgiveness takes one. And I think for some of the closure he's seeking, he's not promised a reconciliation. None of us are. But I look at how he broke so much with the royal family because, as Sonny, you alluded to, it was important for he and Meghan to have say in what people knew about their story, which was important. But I do think now, looking at it from a royal family, which is not relatable for me, but you don't break with, as Meghan called it, the firm. And they came out and they did a sit down with Oprah. They did a book. They did a documentary. I think the levels in which a royal family who's all about pent up tight secrets, which I'm not saying is the right way to do it, but I think he hit, there were going to be consequences. And I think sadly this might be one of them, and my heart breaks because we also don't know how much contact he has. The king's health is probably high security knowledge that not everyone gets because that's a risk for them. And now you're talking to the son who did the sit down, who did the book, who did the documentary. So as much as he means well, and you can see as his throat tightens and he feels so many things, I believe him. I don't know if we're ever guaranteed that closure or reconciliation, and that makes my heart heavy.
And it's also sad that his mother, right, Diana, Princess Diana, worked so hard in the relationship of those two brothers. So in all likelihood, I suspect they are estranged as well. Yeah. And I can tell you, I miss my father, and I'm sure he misses me. But it is just very difficult to take that first step, and I think it takes a lot of processing. This is something you and I have spoken about a lot because you're on the other side of it, having lost your mother, having lost your brother, and knowing that sometimes you don't get a second chance.
Yeah, and sorry, real quickly, we see how quickly people can pass. We had a friend here at the show who lost their father suddenly and surprising.
Yes.
And as hard as it is to take the first step or say the first word, to have that chance ripped from you probably hurts more.
Yeah.
Well, you have to remember, this is what he wants. This is what he needs. And that's what he's putting out there. I don't know what Charles needs. Right. I don't know what Charles wants to do. Maybe Charles feels he said everything he needs to say. And if that is the case, he's going to have to deal with it. It's, you can't decide for somebody else what they're going to do. You can only be accountable for your own actions. So, I always say whatever you need to say while people are breathing and walking around and are mad at you today. Say what you need to say. Because, that's when you need to tell people that you love them, when they're really pissed at you. Because that's when stuff happens and you're not ready for it. So you always have to, you can't leave these things unsaid. Yeah. When you leave stuff unsaid and people disappear, there's nothing you can do, it's done. Don't leave it unsaid, y'all. We'll be right back.